Does anybody remember the old classic video game, The Oregon Trail? Maybe you're like me, someone who's old deep down, who spent hours guiding a pixelated wagon across a prairie. Or maybe you've just heard the memes, you have died of dysentery. The idea behind the game was simple. You were a settler in the 1850s, guiding a wagon across 2,000 miles from Missouri to Oregon. There's no road, no GPS, and your small party faced the constant threat of starvation and, of course, dysentery. Along the way, you made choices that determined your score at the end of the game. Do you risk floating your wagon across the raging river, or spend your precious cash on a safe ferry ride? Do you stop to break, or do you push on and try to make it to Oregon in record time? But the most important choice you made was even before you saw the trail. At the beginning of the game, you had to choose your profession. You'd be a banker. That was the easy path. You started with plenty of money, and the road ahead felt safe and secure. Or you could be a farmer. That was the hard path. You started with almost nothing, and every mile felt insecure. There's also the carpenter, but the real paradox, the real lesson of the game was always in the stark contrast between the banker and the farmer. And here's the twist. If the banker made it to Oregon, you won, but it felt hollow. If the farmer won, against all odds, you were awarded a score 3 times as much as the banker. The harder path was actually the more fulfilling one in the end. This isn't just some game mechanic. It happens in history, it happens in other people's stories, and without realizing at the time, it happens in my own. For me, living in the current day and age isn't about chasing comfort. It's about leaning towards the path that is harder, and once you're on that path, pushing forward with conviction. I didn't always think of it as a framework. Back then, it was always just a gut feeling. Only later did I realize this idea could be summed up in 2 easy steps. Step 1, when faced with uncertainty, choose the harder path. Step 2, once you're on that path, walk on it boldly. Let me show you how this is played out in my own life. You see a speaker standing on the stage today, but for most of my life, this was impossible. Because I grew up with a speech impediment, I was bullied because of it, so I chose silence. Silence was the easy path, and it was a shield I carried throughout middle school and into the first years of high school. But that shield became a cage. My life felt so depressing at times, and I felt so lost. I remember a time when I was in a restaurant, and I was too afraid to ask for a fork, so I ate my pasta with a knife. Yeah. I realized I couldn't live my life like that, so I chose the harder path of trying to find my voice again. You know, for me, that meant like raising up my hand in class, speaking to friends. No, it was none of that. It was going on Google, searching up networking events near me, clicking the first one, and not looking back. So it turns out that networking event wasn't just some casual mixer. It was the Offshore Technology Conference, one of the world's biggest oil and gas expos in the world. Everybody there was in suits, speaking acronyms I could not understand, and at least 2 decades older than me. And there I was, a nervous high schooler, wearing a random badge of a business I did not know I grabbed from a table, nodding along like, yeah, I totally understood what that deep hole drilling efficiency meant. Yeah. But here's the thing, I survived, right? And that survival taught me something important. That step 1, choosing the harder path, only matters when you pair that with step 2, which is walking on that path boldly. So I kept forcing myself into conversations, even when I failed. I embarrassed myself plenty, especially at an event, but I just got up and I got better, which is one reason I pushed myself to stand on the stage today. When captain nominations opened up for my varsity ice hockey team, I was the most reserved kid on the roster. The easy path was just a shield of silence I've worn for years. There were so many better candidates than me. They all had that natural hockey hair. They all had that natural post-game locker room speech voice. In contemplating whether I'd regret not taking this chance later on in life, even though I could see the adversity I had to face if I took this path, I picked it anyways. So I ran. But choosing isn't enough. Step 2 is walking on that path boldly. For me, that meant speaking up whenever I could, being the first in line to do things, failing and learning while doing so, and seeking out the feedback that was often harsh at times to improve my game. I got that position by counteracting the quiet kid I used to be. Removing any doubts others had in me, and most importantly, the doubts I had in myself. And so while I might not have the perfect hockey hair, I proved that boldness can be practiced till it sticks. And that's how a shy kid became captain of one of the best varsity ice hockey teams in Texas. In 1776, the colonists were at the crossroads. The easy path was loyalty, to bend their knee to the most powerful empire on earth. The hard path was treason, war with no guarantee of survival. They picked that path, and with a bold stroke of a pen, they wagered their lives to create a world in which we live in. In the 1960s, the Soviets shocked the US with Sputnik. We were behind, embarrassed, and the easy path was just to play catch-up, build a slightly better rocket to reach a slightly higher orbit. But President Kennedy refused. He set a goal so audacious that technology hadn't even been invented yet. He stood before the world and said, "We choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard." Even today, people like Elon Musk make a habit of choosing the harder path, risking everything on impossible bets like electric cars and commercial rockets, even when people said it was impossible. And when he chose that path, he changed entire industries. The real risk isn't failing. The real risk is getting to the end and realizing that you've never truly tried. Just like in the game The Oregon Trail, the banker's path is safe but hollow. The farmer's path is brutal, but in the end, your score is higher and more fulfilling. I started this journey as a quiet kid who couldn't even order a fork in the restaurant, who had no business leading an ice hockey team and standing on a stage like this. But by choosing the harder paths in life and walking on them boldly, I found my voice, my team, and moments like this. The easy path gets you there in life, but the hard path makes the journey worth it. Thank you.